Hey guys, welcome back to Starcastic Remarks alongside James, the meaner brother, as his title says. My name is Ryan Chambers. We are the official Dallas Stars podcast of THPN. That promo code is THPN the next time you go and use DraftKings Sportsbook. And maybe you can bet on the amount of times that one of the brothers of Sarcastic Remarks gets sick. Along with Chris, he has got some food poisoning. He's not feeling great. I think I'm with the majority of Americans right now and just feeling like absolute dog water. James, how are you feeling? Are you feeling any better than I am?
Yeah, I'm still congested and coughing a little here and there, but mostly better. That's
Well,
about
you can
it.
hear you can hear it in my voice, right?
A little.
Yeah, I feel like you can hear it a lot in my voice, especially the last couple of days. So, anyways, I will if I randomly just like disappear for a second, I promise I'm still here. I'm probably just hacking up along and trying not to cough into the mic so loud. So, anyways, we have got a lot of stuff to talk to you about tonight. We've got all sorts of things on top of. We're going to talk about Liam Bichsel's injury and how that affects the Stars moving forward. Hopefully, not too bad. Uh, there's. I tried to find something else to talk about, James, but the rumors about the trade deadline continue to run rampant, and that's what I titled this episode in part. I mean, because it just feels like nothing is going away. I mean, and we'll talk about each of the guys. I mean, Seth Jones is just getting juicier, it seems like. Ristolainen is still out there. Brock Nelson still being talked about. And then I believe it was Elliot Friedman came out and said that the Stars, it would make some sense for them to go after Erik Karlsson. And I'm like, no, thank you. And then Jim Nill literally came out and said that that's not even a thing. That's not happening. So we're going to talk about all of that and everything. But before we get to that, we want to thank our newest member of the Who Cares Club. That would be Linda Zinda. That is her name. Thank you, Linda, for being a member. We appreciate you and all of the others that are being mentioned at the bottom of the screen there if you're watching on YouTube. As always, if you would like to join that club, you can click the link in the description below. All right, James, I will let you have the floor about what you would like to talk about first. Would you like to run rampant with trade rumors, or you want to talk about Liam Bichsel stuff first?
Let's do Liam Bichsel stuff first, because that's the stuff that we know more of.
All right. So let's talk about him for just a split second. Obviously, we know the hit that he took from whatever his face name was, and he's in concussion protocol. He's out for 5 to 6 days, so he will probably not be playing on Friday. It's a possibility he could be playing on Sunday, but it's unlikely, I would guess. How bad has the injury bug been for the Dallas Stars this year, specifically on the back end? It's just been ridiculous.
Yeah, and specifically towards head injuries, it feels like. I mean, it's whether it's a puck or a player, it's just Dallas Stars heads are not safe right now. It's every other game in and out. It feels like someone gets hurt, and it's gonna be that way, especially with Miro out. Like if Bichsel goes down, you still have Miro in. It's like, okay, you still have Miro, he can pick up the minutes, but your biggest minute muncher is out, and so it just compounds every other injury that happens.
And it really sucks for Liam Bichsel because he's been playing pretty well, and it seems like he's finally gotten the call up for good. It feels like for the Dallas Stars. At least that's the way that the coaching staff kind of came across. That's the way that I don't know. It was just a feeling, if that makes any sense. That's not really a very analytical view to take, but it just seemed like he came up the first time. He took care of business the way he was supposed to, but it just wasn't quite 100% where they want it for a defenseman to play in their top six in Dallas. He goes back to the AHL for a period of time. He gets called up again, and then that's supposed to be where he stays. So it really sucks for him just because of, what he was doing and the potential and the opportunity that he was getting with a lot of people getting hurt, honestly. And he's just another kind of pile of wood to throw onto the fire, unfortunately. So
luckily, this one is much more short term, and he should only be out for another 2 games at most.
what are you seeing from him specifically that adds to the Dallas Stars that's maybe something that they don't have?
He's just big, and he pinches people off on the offensive zone, or sorry, the defensive zone for him on the boards. When they try to sneak past him, he never lets them pass.
For me, it's yes, I agree with you on all of that stuff. See, you're coughing too off while you're muting. See, I'm doing it too. All right, we're working ourselves out. We'll cough in between while we're having a conversation back.
We're struggling through.
Yeah, I know, right? We'll get there. Yeah, I hope you guys love us for doing this. By the way, we like this is really hard to do. Like, trust me. Anyways, for me, it's just his general physicality. Like his general physicality adds a complete element to this team that they don't have.
Yeah,
and that's crazy considering you've got guys like Mason Marchment, you've got guys like Jamie Benn, the beast mode Jamie Benn. I don't want to say we haven't seen it because he's I don't know, he's been really good, especially in the point department, and he's been great for especially the young guys on this team. But that physical presence of Jamie Benn, it seems like that's gone. I know that's something we haven't really talked about very much, but it's just more evident watching Liam Bichsel and like what he does and all the hits that he's had, and obviously the biggest noteworthy one, the one he had against Braden Shin of St. Louis, where he basically threw him into the bench, and Jamie and Braden are both laughing about it. So I think that's something about his game that adds to the Stars, and I honestly think that's probably why he keeps a spot in the lineup when the Stars get to the playoffs. Yeah, so I mean that's the biggest part of his game.
He has more hits than Matt Rempe right now. So, and he's played less games than it. So he's throwing a ton of hits. Matt Rempe's may be a smidgen bigger than his, but he's throwing some massive hits, and he's throwing 4 or 5 every single night.
That's crazy to think that Matt Rempe would be bigger.
Well, I'm sure that he would have a lot more if he could actually play.
Can you imagine a fight between those two guys? I would love to see that. Or like Alexiak.
You think I want Bichsel getting anywhere near Rempe?
Okay, fair, but
leave that clown alone.
Just from an entertainment perspective, if there's no ill will or anything like that, two big guys, you're telling me you don't want to see like a fight between Zdeno Chara and him? Like that would be so fun.
Early season fight, you know,
or like a preseason fight. Yeah. Or like, hey, you're big, I'm big. Let's go. Come on, let's do it. Okay. So with Liam Bichsel's injury, it also asked a couple of other questions that we need to ask. And I think this is the most interesting one because of what we're seeing from this particular player as of late. And that's Matt Dumba. Is Matt Dumba finally starting to figure it out? Or I don't, it's not even the right question to ask if we should still be leery of it. I think we still should be leery of it, but does it seem to feel like that he's finally starting to figure it out? And maybe this is at the absolute best time because of how many injuries have decimated the Stars blue line.
I don't know. I sure hope so. It's, it would be a perfect time for him to do it. It really just, I'm not going to say that he's figuring it out until he's gone at least 10 games with this type of game. It's just game in and game out. It's so inconsistent, and his bad games are atrocious and his good games are meh, you know? And if he could just do those meh games every time, he would be an amazing 6th defenseman, which is not what we're paying him for, which is unfortunate. But if that's what he's got, then that would work perfectly for the Stars right now. I just don't know if he's going to stay there or not.
I was about to say, we'll take Meh right now, honestly. Like because of all of the injuries that the Stars have right now with a lot of their top guys, I'll take Meh right now, just because I mean they don't really have much else. I mean, what are we looking at? We're looking at Kyle Capobianco and Petrovic to come up and be saviors for the Dallas Stars blue line right now. I mean, we were hoping that we would never get to that point, but that's where we're at with all of these injuries, and Liam Bichsel's had to do that. So I think this stretch run, especially this next home, whatever you call it, homestand, I think it's going to show a lot of what Dumba is. And it also makes me wonder, because I'm always the one who questions, has Dumba been fighting something for a long, long time? And maybe he's finally starting to get over it or whatever. I mean, I'm talking like years, like injury wise, because he has not played well in what, 2.5 years? Before
it's been a while.
Yeah, like before he went to Arizona and then got traded to Tampa, right? Like basically when he was a Minnesota Wild defenseman, that was the only time that he was effective. And even then, the Wild didn't want him. So we really need Meh right now, and Dumba really needs to step that up. Okay. Moving forward on Bichsel, do you still think that he is the answer on the blue line, and maybe the Stars don't go out and get another defenseman like I'm kind of hoping that they do? What do you think?
Yeah, we've kind of beat this dead horse a bunch, but it fully depends on when you think your star defenseman Miro Heiskanen is going to be ready or not. Is he going to be ready come playoff time, or are you going to need a little help before he gets back? And it really, you should be adding someone down, like another 6th or 7th defenseman if you can. But if Miro's going to be back, then you're moving. If Miro's going to be back and Bichsel is back, then you're moving Matt Dumba all the way off, essentially, and he's your 7th defenseman, and that's a pretty good 7th defenseman to have. So I just think it depends so much on things that we don't know as Stars fans.
Well, we'll have to wait and see, because I honestly don't think it helps either, because Liam Bichsel, this was supposed to be his tryout, right? And he gets injured. And I mean, the trade deadline is what, March 7th? March 4th?
It's coming. It's less than 2 weeks.
Yes. So, and he's already not playing for the next, at least Friday. Excuse me. At least Friday. Probably maybe even longer. So we'll have to see what Jim Nill does. And I mean, maybe with him getting hurt, does that kind of solidify Jim Nill's position as to we need another defenseman, regardless?
No.
You still don't think that?
Just because it's only concussion protocol. If he was like hurt and he's gone for 2 weeks, then yes, you have to go get another defenseman at that point. But with it just being concussion protocol, and I say just very lightly because you don't want to mess with any type of head injuries, but I don't think that it forces him to have to go trade for a defenseman.
I'm hoping that that's not the case, because I'm hoping we can rely upon the players that we have, because I really don't want to waste any kind of assets that we have right now. And I mean, honestly, I'm not trying to be mean to the guys down in the AHL, but I mean, after Liam Bichsel has quote unquote graduated, I think he's kind of already done that. There's not really anybody else at the AHL level that you could look at and say, oh, that's a top tier prospect. I mean, most of the prospects that we have might be like, if we give him a grade, might be like B level. Like, and that's with Blue Mel scoring 28 goals in the AHL. He's like top 10 in the AHL this year. So I just don't know. I honestly don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. With the Bichsel talk, James, let's get into just the rampant rumors that I mean, any top player right now, it feels like is being connected to the Dallas Stars right now. I mean, we've talked about for numerous weeks now. I think the biggest one right now is Seth Jones. That one I hear more than anything. and I forgot where I saw it, but I'm hearing things that not me, like I have connections. All right, I'm not saying that, but that Seth Jones, his biggest place to go is Dallas. That's where he wants to go the most. But I don't think that Chicago wants to retain any salary on Seth Jones, and the Stars are not going to have a guy that makes $9.5 million and makes more than Miro Heiskanen and probably more than Thomas Harley, with Thomas Harley's extension coming close too. So I don't know. And then there's Rasmus Ristolainen with the Philadelphia Flyers. You've got Brock Nelson that's also been talked about with the New York Islanders. I don't think that's as likely anymore since they've got Granlund now, but it's still out there as a possibility, I guess you could say. And then the one that blew my mind and it was immediately knocked down was the Erik Karlsson thing. And that was more of an insider saying, I think the Stars should go after Erik Karlsson. No. Billion times no. Okay. If we needed offense and we had a really solid decor, then I would be like, sure, why not? Okay. If he's like dirt cheap, but no, absolutely not. And then, who else are they not connected?
That you would have to have for Erik Karlsson alone is just insane.
Yeah, I just don't know what else. I mean, there's so many other things, James. Is there somebody that I forgot to mention? Because I'm sure there's someone I forgot to mention.
I'm sure there is, but I don't know him.
Yeah, I mean, so
it really sounds like Jim Nill is just calling up every single person and asking about everyone, which is what he should be doing. Especially when you're talking about people are getting hurt very quickly, and it seems like every other night someone's getting hurt. You got to pick up some more people, especially on the defensive side, and that's what it sounds like he's looking for.
Oh, and then I forgot one. Yeah, Mikko Rantanen, right? We've seen that in the last couple of weeks.
That one doesn't.
That's not likely. Sense. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense in my opinion. Would it be cool? Absolutely. Would I want him? Absolutely. Probably not for what Carolina would want for him. It would probably be like Wyatt Johnston, Stankoven, and something else on top of that. So I don't know. Dang it, I was close. Anyways, the one that I think that makes the most sense for the Dallas Stars, it still is Seth Jones, and I know Ardell is not in the chat right now, but he would be running me left and right saying, no, Ryan, no. But if they are willing to take a whole lot of retention, and then I would be fine with it, I think. It's just the thing that scares me is the 5 years. But at the same time, if he's playing lower in the lineup, playing on the second pairing, maybe, and he's making $5 million against the cap for whatever reason, then moving forward with the cap increasing as much as they're saying it's projecting it's going to, that might be worth it to the Dallas Stars if they think that he would be a really good fit. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the big thing with Seth Jones and why he might be rumored as much as he is because he wants out of Chicago. And Jim Nill's pretty good at getting good deals on players that want out. I mean, it seems like he always finds the right player like that and just can get him out for what seems like nothing from at least a Stars fan perspective.
And then with all of these rumors just going rampant, let me ask you this question, James. Are the Stars all in? We talked about it for a while. They go out and they get, one of the bigger names on the market in Granlund. I would say his name was definitely out there, and it was, it was out there.
He's the biggest player on the worst team that was going to get traded.
Yes. And I mean, Cody Ceci, based off of how he's played for the Stars so far, I am extremely happy with the way that he's done. I'm not quite sure, other than a right-handed defenseman, I just don't know what else the Stars could possibly need. Maybe some goaltending depth. I mean, Hellberg is okay as a number 3, but maybe you could look at, improving back end back there just in case something happens to DeSmith or to Ottinger, but I really think that Jim Nill is just doing his due diligence. And that's the mark of a really good general manager in the NHL.
It sounds like they've intentionally planned around Tyler Seguin's surgery. I mean, it's the way that Seguin talked about it. It really feels that way. And if this was the plan all along, and then Miro got hurt along the way, and it kind of throws a wrench in the plan, I think you still stick with the plan, honestly. Which would be terrible if Miro doesn't end up coming back. But if he at least comes back for the second round, and you pick up someone who helps you get through that first round, and then Miro comes back, I mean, that could be huge. And it just feels like that was the plan since the beginning of the season. Was okay, Seguin's gonna have to have this surgery. We're gonna have a bunch of cap space. Let's go try to do something big. And it really feels like they're trying to push for that.
And if they really want to do that, then if Miro is not going to be ready, before the playoffs begin, I mean, you could also put him on LTIR and then make a giant move like for a $8-9 million player for 1 year remaining.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that like makes sense with if they're talking about Seth Jones. Maybe Miro really isn't coming back before the playoffs, and then you can get Seth Jones, and you almost don't need any salary retention, at least for the first year.
And that's the key right there, is for the first year. I was about to jump on that. Is yes, it would be fine for the first year, but if you do go out there and you do that, and you don't, Chicago doesn't retain any salary, then you are really putting yourself in cap HE double hockey stick with players like Thomas Harley, who's going to need a contract soon. Wyatt Johnston will need one after this season. And is that worth it to you? And I would argue no.
I'm not saying it's a great plan, but it's a plan, Like it's possible. It's there.
And then this is another question I had for you too, James. When just talking about this in general, Jim Nill is always fantastic about this. Always. Is he going to make a trade for a really big player that absolutely nobody is talking about right now? Because he seems to do that all the time. Like Chris was talking about Granlund being a good addition to the Stars, but was really anybody else kind of talking about that?
Not really.
Not really. So Mato is reading my mind. That was 100% where I was going with this, is Jacob Trouba. Jacob Trouba, excuse me. He's got is it 1 year remaining, or is it this year and next year?
This year and next year.
This year and next year. Okay. So in the short term, that might be worth something where you don't have to retain. And it costs less than Jones. And I don't know. I honestly don't know. And this is a fair question too. Darren saying over here, is Trouba Matt Dumba 2.0?
Probably,
is he just a really expensive one?
He might play a little more dirty.
Yeah, but my thing is yes, he might be Matt Dumba 2.0, but he's Matt Dumba 2.0 who has been a captain in the NHL, and you know how much Jim Nill loves to go out and get those captains, right? I mean, he's got Joe Pavelski, he went and got Jason Spezza. Patrick Sharp wasn't a captain, but he was an assistant captain and a really big player for the Chicago Blackhawks. I mean, I don't know. I think that there's something brewing that nobody is talking about. That's my personal belief, because nothing makes sense. All these players that are being thrown out there don't make sense.
Yeah, and the other thing with Jacob Trouba is the playoff experience, and that really does matter for this team. This Dallas Stars team has been in a lot of playoff runs right now. They They don't need someone who they're going to have to show how to play in the playoffs. And Jacob Trouba already knows how to play there.
And then, okay, I'm guessing this is his stats for the year. Monto talking about those 56 games played, 12 assists, and he's a -4 on the season. Yes, that's that. And I'm looking at all the same stuff, right? Go and look at Lundqvist's stats this year. They don't look much different. They really don't. But us seeing him play this year, we would say that this is the best year he's had as a Dallas Star, right? Okay, so that's kind of what I'm saying, and then the other thing that kind of pushes me over the edge a little bit is specifically Luds on DLLS. He really wants this guy on the Dallas Stars. He thinks he would be a great addition, and I mean, this is a guy who's played in the NHL. He's been there, done that. He's won 2 cups, won one with Montreal, won another with Dallas. I mean, who am I to say that he wouldn't be a good fit if, Craig Lugwood thinks so? And I mean, his word carries a lot, especially in this market. It really does. So I'm not saying that his word is going to get to Jim Nill and Jim Nill is going to be like, oh, well, if Lutz says, I'm not saying that, but at least as a Stars fan, it is swaying me that way a little bit, if that makes any sense. So that's why I'm even considering the whole Trouba thing, because I was expecting the DLLS guys to say the exact same thing and be like, well, yeah, he's been a captain, he's been there, done that, but look at his stats, and the Rangers just wanted to get rid of him or whatever. But imagine he gets traded to Dallas and the Rangers barely make the playoffs, and then they meet each other in the Stanley Cup final. Like, how fantastic would that be? That just as a side tangent, that'd be so much fun. So, what do you think, James? There's a lot of word salad there, but anything to kind of dissect there? You're muted, bud.
Thank you. Really, any right-handed defenseman right now that they can go out and get is honestly a win. Especially when you have Nils going down, you're back to having 3 right-handed defensemen. If one gets hurt, you're done, and you have to throw another person on the opposite side. So it just keeps happening over and over and over again. And again, this is someone who has a lot of playoff experience. I mean, he's played 73 games in the playoffs. That's a sizable amount. And yeah, he's still not like a point producer in that, but he plays a ton of minutes too. I mean, his average in those playoff games is 22 minutes a night.
Wow. Okay. I think we've kind of gone the rounds with that. Anything else to add? I the only one that really makes any sense to me, at least from a Dallas Stars need perspective, is Seth Jones, which is why I think there's another trade out there that nobody's talking about, that Jim Nill is, keeping the cards close to his chest about.
I'm sure he is. And I'm sure a big reason why there's more talks about the Stars this year is because he's probably looking to get a third team in on the trade to retain more. So, and typically when you see that, it gets leaked a little more. I mean, that's what I feel like, but we're going to have to wait and see.
Okay, let's move on from that a little bit, because we got a whole lot of other stuff to talk about that I would like to get there. All right, Maverick Bourque and Logan Stankoven. I think this is a little bit noteworthy, and we need to talk about this a little bit more. Yes, we discussed, you and I did in the episode yesterday, James, that Stankoven was scratched on Sunday for that game, and he comes back on Tuesday, and he has a pretty good game, especially on the fourth line, and he works out pretty well. But should we start to be worried about Logan Stankoven? And maybe that's it. What we're seeing is what we get. I highly doubt that, because he is as young as he is. But some people are already talking about it, which is the only reason why I'm bringing it up. Maverick Bourque right now is playing better than Logan Stankoven, and that's something I did not.
Yes.
Yeah, I did not see that coming. That's the thing that surprises me more than anything. And I expected Maverick to figure it out, because he did. I mean, he spent this is his third year pro, I believe, right? Yep. His first year was, I don't want to say atrocious, but the expectations were lowered because of that first year. And then he comes in the second year at the AHL and just goes ballistic.
Yeah.
Yes, and he's MVP. So I expected him to come in this year and be like not all that great at the NHL level because, history repeats itself, right? That's what I was expecting at the NHL level. But it's that steady climb of Maverick Bourque has been there the entire season. And for the first 2.5 months, I would say, he was completely invisible, like didn't see anything. And then you started to see the trickle of it a little bit. And now he's actually like producing at a very good level when it comes to like points wise, I should say. There's still something in his game that needs to be figured out on the defensive side. With Stankoven, and I wish I had stats to back this up. I just didn't get the time to do this, but I know they exist. There's a lot of people that are saying that he is just extremely unlucky this year. Just with everything the way that he's playing, his expected goals should be way higher. His Corsi should be higher. His Fenwick should be higher. None of that stuff is higher because he's just not getting. He's not producing. That's it. He's just not executing on all the chances that he's getting. So there's a lot of word salad there again, James. I'm sorry, but are you worried about Stankoven?
I'll pull some of your Logan Stankoven stats in because I looked them up real quick. This is from Money Puck because this is the one that I like using because it's the easiest to use. They have his expected goals at 14.9. Good night. I'm tired. Sorry. Expected goals at 14.9.
We're trying, guys. We're really trying.
He has scored 7 goals. All right. So he scored 7 goals, 19 assists for 26 points. And Bourque, I think he has 9 goals, 10 assists now for 19 points. So Stankoven is still ahead of him in points. The reason why Bourque looks so good right now, though, is that he's rolling consistently. And we didn't see anything from Bourque to start the season, and now it's like he doesn't go like 3 or 4 games without picking up a point now. And this is, sorry, one sec.
No, you go ahead. I'll catch for you. Okay, so I took the expected goals, James, and so you said around 14, correct? You can just shake your head. 14, that's where he should be. 14, 15, somewhere. If you take that, he's on pace for a 20-goal season, which let's be honest, he's really a second-year player. But as a rookie, that's fantastic. I mean, that is flat out fantastic. That's better than you could ask for from not even a top-tier rookie, right? There was a lot of hype around him when he came in because of the fact that he dropped in the draft because of his size and everything like that. But he comes into the AHL, he does all the stuff that he does, and then he gets called up, never goes back down, and he's still not able to really get it going this season. So if he's able to capitalize on the chances that Money Puck is saying he should be on pace for 20 goals.
Yeah.
So that is really noteworthy.
Here's where I'm not worried about Logan Stankoven at all. Do y'all remember how he started the year? He had so many points. He was on the first line because he was playing so good. He had 4 in the first, it's like 16-ish games. Has about 4 goals, 12 assists for 16 points. I mean, he was a point per game player, truly. And you see he started struggling to keep up that same pace throughout the whole season. And that is something completely normal for rookies. I mean, that is a big thing that Michkov over in Philadelphia has had a problem with, is being consistent with his scoring. And Michkov is going to be a monster in the next couple of years. Like, I mean, he already does insane, stupid stuff for his team when they absolutely have to have it. And honestly, I think Stankoven can be that same kind of player. It's just the NHL is a hard league sometimes, and it takes a second to adjust. And even if you think you have it, you get another setback, get another block, and you have to break that block too. So it's a long process. He's just gonna have to keep working at it.
And I think this is why I'm really glad he's on the Dallas Stars, and why, again, Jim Nill is fantastic. Jim Nill is extremely, extremely patient with almost to a fault, it seems like. But I mean, but for example, like he was very patient to a fault with Dennis Gurianov. He trades Dennis Gurianov, and who does he get? He gets Dodonov, and Dodonov has been with the Stars ever since. And this is his third season with the Dallas Stars, and that's probably been one of his best trades from a value standpoint. Because I mean, no offense to Montreal, but Montreal got nothing in return for Dodonov. So it's just something that I think we're just gonna have to be very, very, very careful with, and that we be very patient with. And what's also nice is that he doesn't have to play like a super critical role like a Michkov or like a Celebrini, or even the guy in for the Islanders, Siplikov. I really like his game, by the way. Side tangent. Siplikov, it starts with a T, but that's how you pronounce it. I mean, like, he is even playing basically middle six, top 6 minutes right now on the second or third line. So, and Logan's not. There's time for him to adjust, and that's what's so great about the way that this team is built. They've got guys in the middle in terms of in their prime. They've got guys that are older with Jamie Benn. I'd put Tyler Seguin there now, and also Duchesne. And then you've got all the young guys now too, and we're starting to see those top tier prospects and Stankoven, Bourque, and Bichsel kind of work their way up. So it's just fantastic. So I think we just need to be a little bit more patient with Logan Stankoven here than what I'm seeing on social media.
Yeah, and I kind of wish that he got scratched a little earlier. I mean, it's sometimes those healthy scratches help rookies. I mean, you saw it in last night's game against Columbus. He was fighting really hard just to be on the ice. I mean, he stood on the ice and he was trying to do something, anything. And I felt like at the beginning of the game, it was a little bit desperate, but he got back into it. He got his rhythm back up, and he looked good for the rest of the game. And hopefully we don't have to scratch him again. But if he goes another 4 or 5 games without a point, scratch him again. I mean, it's just you gotta get through to him somehow. You have to find a way to help him get his mind in the right spot to be able to consistently do it over and over and over again.
Okay, rapid fire real quick. Darren Smith, I wouldn't trade either. Talking about Bourque or Stankoven.
They're not going anywhere.
Okay, good. All right. Dodonov, is he around next year?
If the Stars don't win the cup, probably.
I would love to see him back. Duchesne, 2 years, $5 million.
Only if he wants to stay here. There's so much dependent on if the Stars win a cup or not. If the Stars win a cup, there's probably going to be a lot of people leaving this locker room. Honestly, like that's tough to think about, but that is like an ultimate goal for this team right now. And there's a lot of people here that I feel like wouldn't be here unless they were looking for a team specifically to go all the way with.
Okay, fair. All right. Thank you, Darren, for all those thoughts there. Okay. James, I'm going to skip over some of the stuff because we're running out of time. I did not think we were going to run out of time, but that's good. I want to talk about some NHL level stuff because we don't really get to a lot because we're so focused on the Stars. But a lot of this stuff is extremely noteworthy. If you missed the conversation yesterday at the end of the episode, Ovechkin, he's 12 away. That's just insane to me that he's gonna do it. Like, it's not a matter of if he does it, it's now when. And if he does it, the way that he's producing, I think he's going to do it this year.
Yeah, I mean, if he can keep it up, definitely. But we've seen him go through stretches this year where he hasn't scored a lot, and we've seen him go through stretches like this where he's scored just a absurd amount for how old he is. So it's really just a waiting game.
And he's having a better season this year than last year. Like immensely better. I mean, for like everyone was talking about last year, they were actually questioning whether, well, is he actually going to get there and get close to the record? And now that he's close, no one's talking about if, they're talking about when. So he's had a good year this year. Okay, I wanted to also talk to you about a couple. Let's do two things. It kind of goes one within the other, so it'll be a good segue. Who wins the President's Trophy? Because I don't think the Stars are in that mix. Is it a possibility? Yeah, it's a possibility, but it is a
Just
very
win
low.
all the rest of your games. Don't lose another one
Basically.
from here until the end of the season.
Basically. So it's between the Washington Capitals, who everybody is surprised about how well they did, how well they're doing this season, including me. And I was even bullish on them to make the playoffs again this year. And they completely overhauled their team this year. They went out and got Logan Stankoven. They got Jacob Chikrin. They got Pierre-Luc Dubois. They got Andre Mangiapane. I mean, like lots of really good players, threw them on a team and said, go help Ovechkin. And they're not helping Ovechkin. Ovechkin is helping them. It feels like with this team. And then you've got the Jets, who, a couple of years ago we're talking about, well, are there, their two longest tenured players in Connor Hellebuck and Mark Scheifele, are they going to end up staying? And now they're one of the best teams in the NHL right now. And part of it is the way that they started the year, which is ridiculous. But I don't remember if they've lost recently, but they have had a 10-game winning streak this season, which is the longest in the NHL.
Yeah, it's 11 now, I'm pretty sure.
And that's with the Stars playing as well as they have been. And they're still, 8 points behind the Jets?
It's just
something like that
now.
Yeah.
It's 9.
So who wins the President's Trophy? And then I'll ask my follow-up question.
It's probably the Jets, just because Hellebuck refuses to lose a game ever again. It feels like that's really been the rise of the Jets, is the rise of Connor Hellebuck. He was always a good goaltender, but the past 3 or 4 years, he has really hit his stride, and he stops everything that comes towards him.
It's crazy that this is a guy who used to play in Odessa, Texas. That's crazy. I know a lot of people don't believe that, but he played for the Odessa Jackalopes in the NAHL. That's just crazy to think that good of a goaltender was there at one point. Okay. And this kind of leads into the following segment I want to do with all of this is contenders and pretenders. There's a lot of, a lot of podcasts that do this thing, and I think it's fun to jump on this. So we're going to jump on the bandwagon now, right before the trade deadline, and then maybe we can look at it after the trade deadline too, and see if our minds have changed. And when we're talking about pretenders and contenders, well, obviously what we're talking about is for the Stanley Cup, right? Okay. So what we're going to do, James, is we're going to start at the top of the league and work our way down. And I want you to give me pretender or contender for these teams. Okay.
Got it.
All right. First in the NHL, the Winnipeg Jets. Pretenders or contenders?
I think they are contenders. On the basis that Hellebuck plays as good as he is in the playoffs. They have a ton of good players on their team. Don't get me wrong. They have a lot of good players. It's all on Hellebuck. That is that team. He is that team.
Well, you could say the same for the Stars. I feel like you could say, the Stars will live or die by how well Ottinger plays in the playoffs.
I agree with that, but it's even more so with the Jets. The Stars could get a round or two into the playoffs with subpar goaltending. I don't know how far the Jets could go, if they could even make it out of the first round with Hellebuck playing normal, like a normal goaltender.
And a lot of the pundits right now that are like, I don't want to say anti-Jets, but they're like definitely think they're pretenders, is they're comparing them to the Boston Bruins when the Boston Bruins went and had this ridiculous season and put up the best season of ever and out in the first round to the Florida Panthers. Yeah, it was 7 games, but still. And then you could even look back a little further to the 2018-2019 Tampa Bay Lightning. And at that point, they had 62 wins, and that was the best record ever in the NHL. And then they get swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets, which our buddy and pal Matt Duchene was a member of those Columbus Blue Jackets at that point. So a lot of people are saying that history is repeating itself in that fact when they're looking at the Jets. So I don't know. I'll say contender. Because I think Hellebuck will figure it out. Capitals. Pretenders or contenders?
This is the biggest pretender in the league. I mean,
okay, wow, okay. That was quick.
They are playing great for regular season hockey right now. I just don't believe it. There's so many players on their team that are having career years. This is just kind of how it goes sometimes. Sometimes a bunch of them just play really good all at once. We saw it with the Predators a couple of years back too. They had a absolutely incredible season because their top 5 or 6 players all had career years. It just happens sometimes. Sometimes you get a great group of players together and they all just go nuts for a year. And I really think that's more of what's happening right now.
You can kind of say that about the Columbus Blue Jackets right now.
Yeah, definitely.
I am rooting for them 120%, and they are having guys that are just going nuts. I mean, Werenski is being talked about for the Norris, and Marchenko has just kind of exploded and kind of come out of nowhere. He's kind of like a Jason Robertson for them in Columbus, so that's cool to see. I'm with you, James. I think they're a pretender, and I can't believe I'm saying that with Alex Ovechkin on the roster, but it's just unproven in the playoffs. It is where I'm at with those guys. And the difference between the only thing that I think gets them through it is if for some reason Ovechkin just goes beast mode and just drags them through it like Sidney Crosby did with the Penguins a couple of times. And could he do it at his age? I think he could. So I think that's the one it factor you have to be careful about with the Capitals. But I will say pretenders for them as well. Okay, obviously Dallas. Dallas is number 3 in the league with 76 points. Contender, pretender?
They're contenders. I mean, everyone knows that. They've been to the conference final like 3 of the last 5 years. They're definitely contenders. No one can deny it.
Now, since you're being obviously we're both
straight homer. Yes, exactly.
We should.
That's exactly what I'm going with.
This is a fan-led podcast. Obviously, we should be homer, but let's play devil's advocate for a little bit. Nobody on this team currently on the roster has ever won a Stanley Cup.
Cool. They can all win a cup all at once. Let's go.
Well, you could say that about the Washington Capitals too.
No, they have players who have won.
Well, yes, but there's a lot of players on that team that haven't won a Stanley Cup, right?
With a lot less experience. And this Dallas Stars team has not had their best seasons, multiple seasons in a row. So they've been in the playoffs. They're trying tested. Are they going to win a cup? That's a different question. But are they contenders? For sure. They are definitely contenders.
And this is where I'm getting at too. Yeah. So Darren caught my snarky response there. Technically, Tyler Seguin has won a Stanley Cup. He won it when he was 19 as a rookie with the Boston Bruins in 2011. But he's not currently on the roster, right? So he's on LTIR. So, or actually, is he on LTIR?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Someone is on LTIR.
Yes.
Him or Miro?
It's Seguin. Seguin's on
Seguin.
LTIR.
Okay. All right. So, okay. Vegas. The Vegas Golden Knights. Contenders or pretenders?
They're contenders. I mean, they had the first round exit last year, but it took the Stars 7 and beating them in 4 1-goal games. So it's going to be a tough team to beat. It's another team that's just going to go all in at the deadline, regardless of how much cap space they have. They're just going to find a way to do it. They have some crazy mathematicians over there on their team, but yeah, they're contenders. There's no reason they shouldn't be. They won the cup 2 years ago. They can still do it. They still have a lot of same players.
I agree with you. I think they're a contender as well. You can't you can't you can't leave them out. You can't. And as much as I want to, and I hate them so much for it, you can't. That'll be interesting. Toronto Maple Leafs, contender or pretender?
Everyone knows this team is a pretender. Okay, they like to act like they're so good and do amazing regular seasons, and they get to the playoffs and they suck. So get out of the second round once, and maybe people might call you a contender, because that's their biggest problem right now is playoff success.
Well, and everyone who listens to this podcast regularly knows that I love the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I'm always the one that's high on them, right? They're my favorite team, right? So I'll play devil's advocate in a way. The way that a lot of non-Toronto fans are talking about them and non-Toronto media are talking about them is very different than I've seen in years past.
I agree.
And the Toronto media always says, "Oh, well, this is different. This is a different team."
Exactly.
They're not the only one saying it though. Now there's a lot of media pundits that are saying this team looks a lot different, and in the positive. And the biggest one is obviously when they added Chris Tanev, but they completely overhauled that blue line this past offseason, and it looks very different.
And they have never ever done that before.
But again, it's different. And
they said that the last time they did that. I understand. I get it. It looks good. Don't get me wrong. It's Toronto pretenders.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. They are cursed, and I don't know what else to say about it.
Okay, we're running out of time, so we'll go for like another 5 or 6 minutes, and then we'll call it call the segment good. Florida, contenders or pretenders?
You'd be stupid to call them pretenders because they literally won the cup last year.
Defending Stanley Cup champions. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk, who apparently is more hurt than what a lot of people were letting on.
Yeah, if he's out, they're probably more pretenders, but
even
don't know yet. I said more pretenders.
Barkov, Lundell, Carter Verhaeghe, Ekblad, Gustav Forsling, Bobrovsky on the back end. Oh, come on. Like, they're still a really good team. He's not the whole team, but he is definitely
drugged them a good long way in that playoff run.
2 years ago, I would say absolutely yes, because he was scoring all the overtime goals. Last year, he was more of a part of the group rather than just the reason why they made the Stanley Cup final.
Fair. That's more fair.
Okay. Guess who's next?
Ooh.
Minnesota. Contender or pretender?
Nah, they're pretenders. I don't even know if you can.
Are you being biased, James?
No, I don't even think you can talk about them with contenders. Like, you get to a point where you're in a different group where, yes, they could win the cup. Any team who makes the playoffs can technically win the cup. Okay, but there are teams above them that have certain elite players that are just better than the Minnesota Wild. Are those teams going to beat the Minnesota Wild every single time? Probably not. But the likelihood that Minnesota makes it all the way, not very high.
Are they in that same conversation as Toronto? And the fact that they've been a good team for a little while now.
It's different. Toronto has star players. Toronto should be better. They're just not. Those four, that their core four that they love so much, can't do it in the playoffs. They can't play the same way in the regular season as the playoffs because the playoffs are fundamentally different.
Fair. Ryan, a bunch of mild injuries. Yes, I love it.
And they're still winning.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to
Another
give them
team with
credit
a
for
single
that,
goaltender that can carry them.
right? So, okay, let's do. Oh, we still got a little bit of time. A little bit of time. Okay, after the Wild, the Edmonton Oilers, contender or pretender?
I have a hard time
Ooh, James,
saying contender,
say
but
it.
they are contenders. Okay,
Okay,
they have the best player in the league,
the
probably.
top two best players in the league, I would argue.
No, Nathan McKinnon's better than Draisaitl. I'm convinced after watching Four Nations, but I still think Connor McDavid is just stupid. He can do stupid things. He can win series by himself, which is normally what you say about goaltenders. And he's one forward in a whole jumble of 21 of them that can just completely flip the game on its head and win by himself. So for him alone, they're contenders. How far can they get? We'll see. That's I mean, that's kind of with everyone going into the playoffs, to be fair.
Oh, and then obviously the one that they're talking about is the specific area is goaltending, right? Like
It
they've
worked
got
for them
elite
last
forwards.
year, which I think is more of a fluke than anything. But we'll see if they can
Ooh,
fluke
James.
twice. Because if they
You
fluke twice, then that's just what's going to happen. They're just going to get good goaltending in the playoffs.
you are pissing off a lot of Edmonton Oilers
I better
fans right
be.
now.
Okay,
Good.
that's the whole point of the segment.
You know, yeah. Again, look at us being biased and homery again.
Yeah, the Stars, they just went to the conference finals twice. What did Edmonton do?
Beat us in the conference final last year.
No, they
Don't make
definitely
us
have
laugh.
good
We're gonna
teams.
cough.
I mean, I'm already there constantly.
Yeah. Okay. Let's rattle these off real quick. Tampa Bay.
Yeah, contender. Sure, why not?
Agreed. Contender. Carolina.
Pretender. That team can
Really?
fall apart very quickly and very easily.
Okay. Okay. I will say contender. I'll take the opposite one on that. The New Jersey Devils.
Pretender.
Okay.
They'll be hard to beat. I mean, the playoff team, it's going to be hard to beat. But they're probably more pretender, I feel like.
The LA Kings.
They're pretender.
All right. And last one, because I think it's fair to mention this. The Avalanche. Colorado Avalanche.
I feel like they are kind of sneaky contenders, but it really depends on how their team gels. I mean, sometimes you see all these trades go through and the team just falls apart, like the Rangers a couple of years ago. It's just depends on how well players can gel. New players specifically.
And here's the thing with I can't believe I'm talking about them in a positive light, but here's the thing about the Avalanche is they trade away one of their marquee players in Rantanen, and at first everyone's like, "Oh, the Avalanche got fleeced." Click, 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 type, and all these journalists do all this stuff. I don't think you can say that now, especially considering Marty Necas has looked good with the Colorado Avalanche, and their secondary player they got out of them was Jack Jury, and he's looked pretty good on that third line in Colorado. And that was one of the things that a lot of people have talked about with the Colorado Avalanche is, yes, they have some of the best players in the NHL. And I would argue, I agree with you, James. I think Nathan McKinnon is a better player than Connor McDavid right now. Right now, he's the better player. And then they've got the best defenseman in the world in Cale Makar. And then they've talked about how top heavy they were. Well, they kind of took care of this with a player that they weren't sure was going to re-sign with them, and they got some depth with it. I mean, that's some pretty handiwork to kind of wipe your hands clean of. So I got to give it to them, and I agree with you. I still think they're a contender. And not a sneaky contender. I think they are a contender. And I think that their record in the regular season right now is not indicative of how good of a team they actually are.
I mean, they've had a rough regular season.
They have. And again, all of that goes gone.
Poof.
And yeah, poof. And
Poof, you're a sandwich.
Yes, and what the Jets might get Colorado anyways again in the first round. Wouldn't the Jets love that? That would be brilliant. Just like us getting the Vegas Golden Knights last year in the first round. We were all like, "Oh, look at us getting first in the West." Oh, freaking crud! So, I mean,
what a great reward.
I know, right? Exactly. Home ice advantage. Who do we get to play? The Wild, the freaking Vegas Golden Knights. No thanks. Okay.
Literally anyone else would have been better.
Yes. Okay. But we're not looking at the past. We're looking towards the future. And speaking of the future, let's move on to our final segment of the evening. The Who Cares segment. We had an original one we were going to go with, but we're going to save it for when Chris is here. We'll save that for next week. So don't you worry. There is a channel in the Discord. If you would like to join the Discord, the link is in the description below. And there is a specific channel there where you can leave us Who Cares suggestions. We would love you to go there and give us more and more suggestions. We're going to go with one that I believe we've done before, but we're going to do it again because it's been so long and I could not find where we did it. So, James, would you like to introduce it?
Okay. We absolutely have done this one before, but we are doing it again because a bunch of people on the Discord wanted us to do it, and we do what the people want. We are doing top 3 movie soundtracks. Top 3 movie soundtracks.
All right. So, and we're not throwing any specifics on it at all, right?
Nope.
Okay. So just open-ended, whatever. Okay. All right. You want to go first or you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. I'm gonna be a little bit homery on all of my picks. All of my picks are pretty expected. The last one might be a little bit of a surprise, but again, there's a lot of people that love this soundtrack too. My number 3 is gonna be the Star Wars soundtrack. And I know that's very John Williamsy of me to do that, but everybody, anytime you hear that iconic trumpet solo or even the horn rips from Star Wars, even non-musical people know what that's from. So, and specifically the Imperial March, that is one of the greatest pieces ever written. So, that's my number 3. What you got?
All right, my number 3 is gonna be the music from the movie Tangled. I love that movie. All the music.
That's an underrated one.
I can just listen to all the songs from the movie and feel like I've watched the movie. So that is quite easily my favorite Disney movie of all time, and it makes my top 3 in music of all time as well.
Okay. All right. My number 2. My number 2 is the music from How to Train Your Dragon. I mean that is like a staple. And John Powell, oh my goodness, I want to meet this man so bad. The writer of all of this music, and obviously a lot of people love the soundtrack as well. But there's a specific track called Test Drive where it's when in the first movie when Hiccup rides Toothless for the first time, and Test Drive. Okay, I guess I thought it was Test Flight, maybe something like that. Whatever. Whenever he rides Toothless for the first time, it's fantastic, and I can hear it in my head right now. Big French horns, dun 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 dun. Really, really cool. I love it. Okay, number 2.
My number 2 is gonna be the Lord of the Rings soundtrack. I love that soundtrack. The Shire is perfect, beautiful, peaceful, and also in the fight scenes is awesome. I mean, all the music from it is quite fantastic. It really feels it makes the movie leaps and bounds better. Like just because of how good the music is.
And since you mentioned that's another John Williams thing, there is a fantastic documentary on Disney Plus called Music by John Williams. If you haven't watched it and you have Disney Plus, I highly suggest you go and watch it. It's just fantastic. He goes through all of the stuff, and a lot of it is his relationship with Steven Spielberg And the two of those guys have just done so many movies together. And they talk about the backgrounds and like the first time like that John Williams played 2 notes on the piano when he first introduced the theme for Jaws. It's really cool. It's really fun. So go and watch it. I highly suggest that. Okay. My number 1 is not very well known by a lot of people, and that's why it's my number 1. Because the everything about it is fantastic. And that's the music from the movie August Rush. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I know you have, James, but
it's been a long while for me.
So if you don't know the movie, long story short, there is this kid who is given up for adoption, and not to the choice of the mother. The mother never knew it was given up. She thought the child died. And the whole movie is about the journey of this kid finding both of his parents and through the love of music. And obviously, as that being my job and music being so ingrained in my DNA and my Dunna, it's just, yeah. You like that, James?
Just mentioned another movie quote in there.
There you go. It's every time I watch the August Rhapsody in C, the very end of the movie when he's conducting the orchestra, that brings me to tears. And I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it now. It brings me to tears every single time. It doesn't matter how many times I've seen the movie. It is, if you've never watched this movie, you are doing yourself an extreme disservice. Like, please, I beg you, please go and watch August Rush. And, rip to Robin Williams, who played, actually, very rarely, he doesn't play very many villains in movies, but he was, I don't want to say he was the biggest villain in the movie, but he played a villain character in August Rush. So seriously, go listen to the soundtrack. And if you go and watch the movie, it's fantastic. Okay, I'm done. I'm off my soapbox.
All right. My number 1 is your number 2. It's How to Train Your Dragon. The music in that movie is spectacular. It's such a weird thing from a DreamWorks film too. Like not that their soundtracks are terrible or anything, but this is original kind of stuff that you would expect from a different studio. This is kind of out of their range, in my opinion. But it's
something that competes with, that not necessarily overtakes some Disney movies, but it definitely competes with those Disney movies soundtrack.
Overtakes a lot for me. I mean, it's my number 1 for a reason. It's spectacular. I could just listen to the soundtrack from that movie on repeat for days and days and days and never be tired of it.
Yeah, normally that soundtrack is in the background in my office at the junior high. So it's just, there are just so many good moments in the music where it can get you calm, cool, and collected. There's some anxious moments that it builds up. It's got some heroic stuff, and it's just fantastic.
The music makes you feel what's going on in the movie, which normally watching the movie, you feel that way, but you can close your eyes and you can feel it through the music.
It's so cool. I love the soundtrack. Your number 1 is a good number 1. It was very, like, my number 1 and my number 2 are very close, and then number 3 is kind of down there a little bit. Yeah. But like those first 2 are just, I mean, fantastic. So, okay, I think that's gonna do it here for us tonight. James, you got anything else?
No, I'm gonna go cough for a while.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. Ryan Gardner, by the way, feel better, boys. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Especially the tissue emoji. That's kind of cool. I didn't even know that existed. I don't go emoji surfing very much. I kind of stick to the basic ones because I'm
emoji surfing.
Yeah.
It's making up new terminology.
But that's what it is, right? Like,
you're not wrong, but
people go and do that thing, right? They go and do some emoji surfing, looking for a specific emoji they can use for a specific situation.
You can just look up the type of action that you want, and sometimes
you can search for
an emoji for it.
That's emoji surfing. I would say that's emoji surfing. There you go. You learn so many things on a hockey podcast that has nothing to do with hockey. Anyways, guys, thank y'all so much for listening here this evening. Oh, my voice. We appreciate every one of you who are listening live. There's even more afterwards that are listening. Thank you, DraftKings Sportsbook. Promo code is THPN there. If you're listening on the audio side, as I try not to cough, please consider leaving us a 5-star review wherever that may be. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. If you're watching on YouTube, click like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a live episode of Starcastic Remarks. And once again, shameless plug, please, if you'd like to help us out and join the Who Cares Club for $5 a month, everything is going to continue to be free. This is just the best way to help us support us and what we do. So, and you also get a couple extra little perks behind the scenes as well that we do for you. So I believe that's it. Okay. Chris, I hope you're listening to this episode. I hope you feel better. James, I hope you'll feel better too. Along with James, my name is Ryan. We'll catch you guys on the flip side. Hope you guys have a good, fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you guys are listening. And we will be back with you guys again on Friday when the Stars are going to be back at home for their first game in almost a month. Thank you guys so much. We always appreciate your guys' support. Bye.